in all my years working with boys and young men, I think that this is one special summit, because while the adults were and the professionals were having their own meeting, the boys and girls were having theirs, and there was particular attention paid to the boys. So it wasn't just let's just talk to everybody. Boys also had a breakout session. So you know what the theme for this year is: safeguarding children from sexual abuse, or child sexual abuse. All hands on deck. Why are all hands on deck? Because there is nobody here who doesn't have a child or a boy and girl that will have influence over. And that is why we decided that this year we're going to make it more specific. And I want to thank the amazing teenagers. Let's clap for the teenagers who are here. Honestly, one of the ways of getting a problem solved is by first expressing it. When we communicate our challenges, then we are sure that we are on our way to finding the solution to that problem. And that is what we came here to tackle. That while Chiege, Chimdi, and Didi are here, and of course Mrs. Bangwell and our convener, if we are talking here, that we will be handling, myself and Amara will be handling the teenagers. And the teenagers came all out. I'm sure if there's time we'll get to hear from them here. They came all out to express themselves. Some wrote their challenges in writing. Some stood up and said, this is what I'm going through, or this is what somebody I know is going through. So let me just focus on what the boys were talking about. Just like she said now, contrary to the previous statistic that we have less, it's less likely that boys are abused before the age of 18. We have less number of boys. It's growing every day. Boys are abused on a daily basis, and the numbers are increasing. And guess what? The people who are abusing them the most are people that you trust so much. Acquaintances, uncles, aunties, nanny, a classroom teacher, a fellowship leader. I know a boy, for example, who at the age of 14 was abused by a teacher who taught CRS in the school when the boy attends. And this same teacher would bring him out of fellowship, feed him, and from there they started going to other kinds of fellowship. And that boy is a mess now because of that. So the boys talked about their challenges, girls responding to them in terms of relationships. Some were talking about how some girls were trying to force themselves on them, trying to either seduce them, how some older ones want to use sexual innuendos without saying anything, but through body language, body movements, extreme show of care. There's a way somebody will show you care and love. You begin to suspect, are you this person? What does this person really want from me? Some of them also spoke about peer pressure. Pressure from older men. This pressure to be a man, because in the world we live in today, a lot of men are under the fear of, or they face the challenge of, if you're a man, let me see a woman that you have contact. Let me know your body count. So body count is no longer about how many people have you killed. It's not about how many girls or boys have you slept with. And that to me is an insult to our ability as human beings, because if we keep allowing our boys to grow under this mindset, this is what I call toxic masculinity, we keep destroying our society. So they spoke about the pressure they face from females, older teachers, nannies at home, even their neighbors, like female neighbors who have an interest, sexual interest in them. Some of them spoke of puberty, the challenge they face. One of the things I pointed out, I observed, was that some of them didn't know who to go to. So if you're a teacher here, which is why we involve teachers here, and you teach basic science, and that basic science, health education, and that in the curriculum, and even civic education, there's a room for young people, teenage boys, to be enlightened on puberty. Boys are not as enlightened as girls. Girls, even at home, they are preparing her for menses, how to use their sanitary toys and all of that. But the boys are not prepared because there's limited information, and there's a lot of what adjective will I use now? There's this fear, there's this stigma. Even parents are afraid of sitting their sons down to tell them. And I'm sure that the speakers here spoke about how to communicate with your child. I was having an interview with Chimdi on Sunday, and she was asking me, when is the best time to communicate a child's sexual awareness to a child? I said, once the child starts speaking. Because if you wait till that child has entered school and is meeting with other people who will teach him a different idea of what sex is all about, you're on your way to losing that child. So we should encourage our boys to speak out often. Some of them were struggling with expressing themselves. I have to say, look, we are all guys here. Nobody's going to condemn you. So if you're someone that works with children, don't condemn them. Just like Ndidi was saying, don't come to them from a place of condemnation. Come to them from a place of love, of care. Because anybody would have made that mistake. And when a child doesn't have information, what do you expect them to do? Who do you expect them to run to? So it's important that we give them an opportunity to express themselves. Then finally, before Amara takes the mic, there's also the issue of relationships between the male and the female. Okay? It's important to encourage them to have, there's nothing wrong with boys and girls mingling with each other. There's nothing wrong with it. However, the boys and the girls must be made to understand that there's a time for everything. There's a time for love. There's a time for intimacy. And when you have intimacy as a mature adult who is married, who is responsibly married, it brings a lot of honor to you. It brings honor. And you can stand before young people and have the moral obligation. Amara and I were talking about our experience in secondary school with the opposite sex. And I told them, I said, look, Amara will not have the guts to talk to you like this and do the work that she's doing if she don't make effort as a young girl to live a pure life. So why don't you join that train and try to strive no matter the pressure you are facing. And I also realize that some of the teenagers have a problem with identity. And this is where I'm going to stop. They have a problem with identity, knowing who they are. I've always said it everywhere I go. If you know who you are, you won't have a problem choosing the right friends. If you have a mind construct of your value system, you won't have a problem choosing the right attitudes to pick and not to pick. You don't have a problem studying for your exams. You don't have a problem even in choice of relationships you make. So if you know who you are, it's a done deal about relationship. No guy will come and mess with you when you know who you are. But when you don't know you as a girl, as a boy, the wrong kind of people come around you and they will influence you and they will get you to do what you're not ready for. So, to cut the story short, intimacy is a no-no for now because it requires a lot of the emotional stability and security and responsibility to handle intimacy. So by the time Amara speaks, I'm sure she'll be able to pick up on areas where I did not speak up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So when we were at the same session, we were talking about how when we were growing up, our parents would put so much fear inside of us. Don't talk to that boy. Don't talk to that girl. Hello parents, that doesn't work anymore right now. So you have to educate your children on what to do. When a boy talks to you, how do you respond? There's the concept I have about preparing for certainty and uncertainty. It is certain that if you have a girl child, one day, one will child. It is certain that one day your son will be somewhere, see a girl who is naked and go hi. What do you teach your son to do when he sees a girl and he's aroused? He's engrossed and it's like to jump on the girl and rape her. What does he do? That is the education we should do our children now because the internet is clouded with so many things to keep our children from progressing. Are we together? Thank you very much. So one of the things your children told us, because the number of kids here represents every other person who is here, their children are not here. They told us that you don't have their time. You don't have their time. The children, you don't have their time. You know, sometimes we think that the boy child do not need love. You know, we tell them, stop crying, boys don't cry. Excuse me, boys cry. Who told you boys don't cry? No, harden up. Okay. No, stop. When you do that, you suppress their emotions. Let them express themselves. It's an expression. Stop shutting them up when they're crying or they're trying to, they're seeking attention. Give them attention. Wake up in the morning, hug your son. Don't say, okay. Hug your son, he needs your hug. Sometimes tell him to sit down and buy you. I'll use him at some point. We are privileged to be in the Holland. You stretch his legs. Sometimes you just drive up with him, even as a mother and as a father. Our kids are yearning for love, yet nobody is providing that love. So what happens is that every single opportunity, they find out that a small girl is showing them love, bringing them lunch, serving them, dashing them, doing some things with them, they fall to it, even when they don't want to. So they told us, you don't give them time. And to be honest with you, you have the time. The only just that you are going to make it a priority to give them the time. Sometimes you're on your Instagram, you're on your Facebook for like 1 hour. Can you share it to 30 minutes? Yeah, Chamaka, give me a scooter. Yeah, don't ask them some straight questions. Just make it interactive. I want to know a scooter. Just one girl now. Before you know it, you start entering from there, conversation started popping up, Then they also told us that you trust too much. So let's say Chiege now comes to me. I was looking for that particular child who was really emphasized on it, to have to come and say herself. You see, you're a teacher. So your children are your friends, obviously. Let's say obviously. And your children are coming, you go to her house with your children, and automatically you assume that because she's a good woman, her children are also good. So they get exposed by the other person's children and they can't even say much to you because you trust. When I was growing up, there's a word that my elder sister told me. She said to me, when I was entering university, she said, while you're entering university, I want you to know that you are the only one that is born again. Don't say Chiege is born again. Now, I'm not saying she's not born again. I'm a Christian and I'm born again. So she says, you're the only one that is born again. What is she trying to tell me? Don't trust anybody. In the days that we are in, your children cannot be taught to trust anybody. Yes, they have uncles. Love your uncles. Let our children be taught to be woke. It was one of I was telling my circle, I was telling them series of encounters I had of being abused. Series of encounters because nobody told me to be woke. Nobody told me don't just think innocent. You know how we are street-minded. Come on, take me out to the yard. I'm not gonna be you. Let's sleep there. I said, come on. I can't leave you alone in this house. The child has been safer at home than there. Nobody taught me to be woke. So I had a neighbor who my hair was his massage instrument. I had a lecturer in secondary school who almost penetrated me in secondary school. Because I'm supposed to be safe my teachers. I had two university lecturers who almost mesmerized my life. But one that gives us thank God they didn't end up the way they planned it. Because at some point, God has the way of helping you. At some point, we tell children what I was telling them, and I told them I won't say it out loud. You trust everybody, including our just tell your children, whenever you're with a woman, with a man, including our you know how we live, we have upholded spiritual authority so much. And we should uphold spiritual authority. But also tell your children that not everybody is on the same level spiritually. God has ordained us that when you're born again, you should go about doing the same thing. But while we are doing the same thing, we are also growing and conforming to become like God. So everybody are on the same level. So when they go to university, there's this fear. So when they say, meet me at the chambers, my chambers, okay, sir. I want to meet you here. So sometimes our kids are exposed to the extreme because we have built so much fear in them. So they say a lot of things, but I want to encourage you as parents. And at this point, I want to sit down here. to sit down here and beg. So in case you go home, you remember that I sat down on the floor to beg you. Please. There is so much agenda to take our children out. I'm 40. In 20 years, I'll be 60. What can a 60-year-old man do much? When I'm 14-year-old, in 20, they'll be 34. They are our future. Let's not sell the future for a piece of meat. The food we are eating now for parties. Some parties you can say no to. Send your money. The party will still hold. There's some weddings you should cancel. The program will please over there. Just to spend time with your children. Our children need us now like never before. They need us so much. We handle cases every day, Asadu. And sometimes we wonder if there's any other way we can just tell parents what's happening. I don't know. Our children are turning to gays, are turning to lesbianism has become the order of the day. Gayism has become the order of the day. Transgender has entered. It has entered. I want to be a boy when they are girls. It is new you see on the internet, you say to fear. Say again, it is here. I've cancelled people. I've cancelled children, not so far away, not in Lagos, not in Abuja, in Enugu here. In Enugu here, who wants to be transgender? They're already in the process. Thank you.
I hope it's not pastor you are avoiding to mention. Priest. I hope it's not priest. Reverend Father. I hope that's not what you're avoiding. Listen, if you start calling these people out, don't mind the religious apologies that tell you, touch not my anointed and do what? Once I go home, I've been talking to my children individually and I've spoken to them as a unit. But no, I think I just learned something. I need to talk with their friends again. And you said something, we should not be too trusting. You know, I shared an experience somewhere, you guys were not there, how a woman was asking the son, tell me all the places that tickle your body. I'm like, oh my God, what is this woman doing? Oh, Becca. And the boy said, my neck, my nipple, whether he said my whatever he said, I'm like, oh my God, this is uncomfortable. And the woman said, and she wasn't even judging. When the boy said nipple, she laughed, foolishly, like, yeah, tell me more. And the boy was going on. And when the boy was done, he said, listen, you see all these places you have mentioned, as far as you are concerned, it is your private part. That is the place that does wonders for you. I want everybody to give a kind of shoulder and it works. There are other people you touch on the shoulder, stimulates them. They said, speak up. I'm sorry, please don't touch them. I don't like to be taught them. Teach your children boldness. Let them speak up. I learned that in an early age. And how do you teach boldness? A lot of us don't compliment our children. We don't have open discussion. It's not a bad thing to tell your daughter, Amara, you look beautiful. But it's not okay for another guy to tell you that, for you to feel you are beautiful. You should know you are beautiful. You have fine eyes and nice curves. The same applies to a boy. You're so handsome. Your skin color, your hair. I like the way you walk. You remind me of your father. That's the kind of guy that will go out and the label comes out. Every Bobito. You look handsome today. And then the expressive ones will say, I know. And you know, the worst thing you can do to a person is to tell the person you look handsome and the person says, I know. What else would you say? What's wrong? It has finished. But if you haven't been telling your child, like she said, you don't touch your child. If anybody comes, Julia, come on now! The girl will melt in your heart. Is it not? But if it's something you do all the time, Junior, hey auntie, and it goes. Please, let's learn from this. This is not a joke. It's not a joke. You know that 18-year-old girl you're complaining. At this age, you have started sleeping around. Sleeping around. It didn't start today. It started when your recklessness, you want to go to work. You leave your daughter. I mentioned that earlier. There are some of us that have irresponsible husbands. And some of us are irresponsible mothers. You sit and you watch your African magic. They're going to go there and say kiss. Gee, the one can kiss more than you. And some of you watch Big Brother Naija. They will wear pants. And they're shaking bum bum. And you're exposing a child to something he has no business with. And some of you say, sexy baby! Woo! And you're posing like a mad person. There are things that are not for children. It's not for the consumption of children. And some of you are too religious that you refuse to address matters. Everything goes to Jesus. Everything goes to Jesus. You're so religious that you don't face reality. Ijoma, you must never talk to a boy. You're born again. All this and no to girls. You're born again. When that restriction becomes too much, what will happen? You raise timid daughters and timid sons. And guess what? The born again will go to university and you're no longer there. And he will cope. Let me follow me from yeah! Because it's been let loose. I believe we've enjoyed today. Are we going to take this home and share? A round of applause.